Okay. The next is the Charles River Pollution Control District. Charles River Pollution Control District overview presentation. Town administrator memo and sewer transfer. Go ahead. What? Go ahead.
Let me just give a quick overview here.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight's discussion, I just want to make sure we've done presentations on the pollution control district before. We don't need to go through all the slides. I think hopefully everybody had an opportunity to review them. The website for the pollution control district is there. I'll let Liz introduce herself in a second. She's here because she's the executive director at the pollution control district. The reason why this is in a broader discussion are the action items on tonight's agenda. And just because many of you are new or many people at home may not know, just give me a few minutes to give a background on this. We're in a pollution control district with other municipalities. As many people know, Medway is the host facility. And so Millis and Medway have approached the town for many, many years. This is not new. This dates to before the pandemic, as a matter of fact. And there's a report in there from Liz that cites that Millis is at about 73% of their capacity for sewerage in their community, and Medway is about 92%. So was it the?
I switched it.
No, Medway is 92, right? And Millis is 73. Yeah, sorry, it's okay. So there is some urgency from the other communities. We've been working on this, the 3 town managers, even Jeff was a part of this at one point for many years. And as always, there are negotiations and there are sticking points with price. I want to be clear with everybody tonight, even though there's legislation action for Millis, for Medway, and then a ceremonial vote that has to happen for the district-wide agreement, the council has final authority on these decisions. So as I've written in the memo, just to tee this up, Franklin has a pretty sizable number of excess sewer capacity that we are permitted for through the Department of Environmental Protection, Peter, who's just over there. And both communities have asked for different amounts of gallonage at different rates, but both communities and all of us believe that, just my personal opinion, that we should be selling, if you choose to sell this extra sewer capacity, you should charge towns, the same rate. I do respect the fact, and I'm not saying that my opinion is correct or wrong, but I do respect the fact that the Millis Board of Select Board and also the Medway representatives are here, and they may have different opinions than I do, and that is okay. But I want to make sure the council is clear that the 2 draft agreements that are in there, particularly with Millis has generally agreed. I know their select board has not taken a firm action on this, and I know they have a little bit more, and they're happy to get up tonight and speak, and that's the reason why we're having this meeting. But I want to be clear with all of you. You do not have to take action tonight. You can take action tonight. You can approve both agreements as drafted. You also have the authority to charge more than the $15.07 per gallon we're recommending. You also could hear from the other boards or the other managers and the other representatives of the other community, and you could charge less per gallonage. All of these decisions are within the purview of the town council. So you can amend them tonight. You can, you can leave them as is, but I think they're going to want to come up and just present to you some feedback from their communities, and then you're going to have to listen to them. We have had both of these reviewed by our town attorney, and I also want to make sure it's clear that when Mr. Nutting was town administrator, I think it was in 2010 or 2011, there was another there have been transfers of sewer capacity in the past. These agreements mirror what has been done previously. So this wasn't something that was just made up yesterday. These were agreements that have been done with all of the other communities in the past, and so these agreements that are here come from sound judgment, sound legal expertise, sound professional expertise from the Pollution Control District, as well as our Water Sewer Department. And we have tried to do the best we can to try to thread the needle on something. As you can see in here, and Doug's here to answer any questions, Franklin currently has 3.642 million gallons a day, which is what's under the Department of Environmental Protection. I will also say, and these questions may come out a little bit later too, it is highly unlikely that the town of Franklin, or any other community, by the way, is going to get a larger permitted amount of sewer capacity anytime soon from DEP. In fact, there has been correspondence from DEP to Charles River Pollution Control saying, that's it. This is it, this is the number, and this is what you have for at least a really long time, and probably within most of our lifespans at least. What happens 50 years from now, we don't know. In our view, being good partners with other communities, particularly Medway that's at 92%, we are trying to make sure that the rest of the district has sewer capacity so their communities can grow as well. But I want to make sure it's clear, the town council tonight does not need to approve these as is, and if the councilors believe that you want to maintain your sewer capacity for future growth in Franklin, you have that right. But I also want to acknowledge down the line, when Medway or maybe Millis or another community in the district does run up against those numbers, we are going to get into additional sticking points with DEP. There may be other alternatives the other towns have to deal with their sewer capacity in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but those may be at a costlier, maybe at a costlier level for those communities. It also may not be approved by DEP. Those are items that are way out of our control. Right. We can't predict those, and it's certainly too far in the future to predict anything that might be there. I would like to Liz to just give an opening and introduce herself, and maybe the other board members that are in attendance, and just kind of give a quick overview of the pollution control, and then we can open it up for maybe the other boards to come up and the other communities to speak as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
Go ahead.
So my name is Liz Taglieri. I'm the Executive Director at the Charles River Pollution Control District. I've been here for about 16 years, Director for 12 years. And we're, like Jamie said, a regional wastewater treatment plant that treats wastewater from the towns of Medway, Millis, Franklin, and Bellingham. So 4 communities are sewered into the facility. We're rated for 5.7 million gallons per day. We're an advanced treatment facility regulated by both EPA and DEP. And we discharge into the Charles River. So it'll eventually, our treated wastewater makes its way to Boston. So we have pretty stringent limits. Our biggest one is phosphorus. That's the one that we're, everything else is great. Our phosphorus is great. We're meeting permit. I know in the packages there's a lot of pictures that show different treatment processes. Would you like me to go through the presentation or, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, in the interest of time, can you just do it short?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. So we have a number of tanks, a lot of big tanks that are at the facility that allow the wastewater and the solids and the organics to settle. We have microbiology that happens in the activated sludge for the small microorganisms. Thank you. Yeah, this is the overview. Some number of tanks, but we have biological phosphorus removal and the microorganisms will remove those organics, more settling tanks, and then we do have filtration, chlorination to deactivate any of the viruses and pathogens, and then we dechlorinate prior to going into the Charles River. We have sludge handling from what's settled in those tanks. And then, so these are some of the clarifiers, the aeration tanks, the secondaries. And then this is the treated wastewater. So very clean, very clear, and that goes into the river. You can see the stairs there are to add some dissolved oxygen, so that way we have enough for the fish life. That's just some of the solids. This was in the handout for the whatnot. And then look ahead, this is just big picture stuff for the district. We need to talk about that tonight, but what I do want to say is that I'd love to host you all for a tour. If you'd like to come to the facility, we can do a group tour, we can do individual tours, however that fits out with everyone's schedule, but it's a really great place to see. And
can I just have you add some of the, so I think what we're talking about tonight is, our Franklin's cost share of the district, right? Mm-hmm. And by relieving some of that capacity, we kind of reduce our cost share. And I think there's some bigger items that would be coming up that would, might help us. So I do want to just touch on those.
Absolutely, yes. So the biggest thing is there is one piece of pipe that goes from basically the BJ's in Franklin underneath 495, under the Mine Brook, into the Brookview condos area. That is what's called a forced main, so that is actually pressurized pipe where we have a pump station and we have to pump under all those things and over to our gravity fed sewer. There's one line there, so if anything would have happened to that line,
I was just going to say,
it's
that's
gonna
not
be,
good.
it's not good, yep. So we're in the process, we're in 60% design right now, looking at alternatives to run a redundant line there. That pump station and that crossing, the pipe there is owned by both Franklin and Bellingham. And so that is something we're working with the towns on to work on designing, and then, ultimately will be construction at some point in time. So.
The sludge removal costs, I think that's more of a...
Yep, and then on the operational side, we have our 10-year contract is up for renewal in July 1 of 2027, so we'll be going out for bid on that. The sludge monies to dispose of sludge, so that's what we settle on the bottom of the tank. That accounts for almost a quarter of our operational costs. So it's quite a bit of money, over $1 million. So if there's a large increase in that in this bid, that would increase our operational budget. That has been increasing based off the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So we're hopeful that we have kept up with the times and price increases. But that is just a big unknown that we don't have yet.
Moving on.
I would just, through you, Mr. Chair DeLoro, so I think, really quickly, both of these transfers tonight represent being good neighbors. Both of these transfers tonight, if approved as is, would bring $3 million in one-time revenue to our sewer enterprise fund. Both of these transfers tonight would save about $65,000 in our sewer budget operating costs because we're reducing that share. And for those, I think one of the questions that you'll all debate is about development. We've heard a lot of concerns about growth, but this is a tough decision because you have a lot of sewer capacity for a lot of growth. So we're hearing messages about we need more new growth. We need more new growth. But then we're hearing messages, I think, in the last election, which is very clear, about no growth and that people are frustrated with growth. I think, unfortunately, embedded in part of this question is a debate about that. And that's why all of you are here. I also would note that I think it may be advantageous to get representatives from both Millis and Medway to just come up and talk about their perspectives of this. I think technically the Millis Select Board has to open up their meeting, right? Because I think you have a quorum here. So maybe if Millis could just open their meeting and then they could come up to the mic and give Millis's perspective.
I'll make a motion to open the Millis Select Board meeting.
Second.
It's been moved to second. All in favor? Aye. All right, we're open.
You're open.
Thank you.
Welcome. So we're legal now.
Yeah.
First, I want to thank you for inviting us in. This is a beautiful room. We meet in my wife's second grade classroom in the renovated memorial school, so it's nice, but it's not this nice. And I think Ellen went there too.
Yes,
So-
my seventh grade English class that we meet in.
Yeah. So it's a nice place, but this is spectacular. And you don't have a guy, you have actually a guy working your AV, which is phenomenal for us. We have Mike. So anyway, thank you for inviting us. We've called the meeting to order. We're, as you've heard, we're at 72% of our capacity. And that sounds reasonable, but the problem is we have a lot of homes that haven't connected, that when they do connect, that's going to drive us into the 90% range. We have a lot of pending construction that's going to happen. I mean, this permitted, it's ready to go. We're not over 100 yet, so we're fine where we are right now, but we are in the opposite position you're in. We're absolutely limited on new growth. And we have Millis Affordable Housing is trying to come in and put affordable housing in. A lot of concern about whether that's going to push us over the capacity on our sewer. We have another LIP coming in, 40B that's coming in that is 100% affordable. There's a lot of concern about that pushing us over our limit. So we're at a position where we're going to have to start saying no to commercial development and to housing development in our town. So that's why we're looking for some additional capacity. And so the exact opposite position you're in. There's 3 towns that all have different needs. And I can't speak for Medway. I'll let them come up after us and speak for us. But that's where we are as our town. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah,
they'd
just
like to add?
quickly that, Jim McKay. So Millis is a good partner, in the collaborative of Bellingham, Medway, Franklin, and Millis, who have invested I'd say about $130,000, $140,000 a year in I&I removal, which I'm sure you're all aware of, that you approve every single year as a town of Franklin. It's a 10-year plan, and we're just finishing up on our 10th year. And we're starting all over again. We did our we cambered the entire system. We removed house laterals that were leaking, manhole covers, and anything that the district, although we don't have a board member sitting at the table, my colleague attends every single meeting, every single month at the Charles River District to show that Millis is still interested in participating in making sure everything is going properly.
If you can't tell, Jim's our newest member on the board. He was our former DPW director until last year, so he really knows this. Okay. When he talks about it, it's not like me talking about it.
And I was here when Mr. Nutting and Mr. Aspinwall negotiated the last, and it was done, I'm sure Mark was the attorney who did it back then in 2011. So everything went smoothly then, and we hope that it would go as the same this year.
So I have a question. We approve this tonight. How long will this get you? Like, how many years is this going to take care of you?
Without saying, I would
Just
say
a rough,
almost forever. I mean, there's just so
okay.
much. Millis is a lot smaller than Franklin, and most of it's wet. So there's only a certain amount of properties that are still left open.
Right.
This 100,000 gallons would give us enough to.
Yeah, and we have homes that can tie in that may never tie in because they have a 400-foot driveway and they're not running the street. They'll just keep working septic. So
We have a significant, is this thing?
Yes.
We have a significant amount of homes that paid a betterment. So we have pulled that out of, when you say 72%, because we calculated higher,
Yeah.
because we're holding that for them, because
Okay.
they
Yeah.
paid a
Yeah.
betterment.
and they may never hook up, but we'll see.
They may never.
We have to hold it, so.
So this will get us at least until I'm off the board and probably much further.
I get you.
That's all we care about.
I get you.
All right, so, and again, it's because we really have developments we want to push through, and not crazy developments either. We want to do some commercial, some mixed use, some, and affordable. We've got these large parcels we want to put affordable housing onto, but without sewer capacity, it gets very difficult to do that. And there's such a need for all of that right now. We're looking over the price, and we can't sign anything tonight. We haven't even talked about it in our town, so if anybody's watching from Millis, we'll be having this on our next agenda item, but we want to come in with a proposed contract. The price is the only part that concerns us, and we're not going to negotiate that tonight. You do what you have to do, and we'll see where that comes out. But we're eager to come up with a number, and we're eager to buy, so we can work through that.
Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm all in favor of helping out a neighbor. You clearly need the supply. My question more is I'm trying to figure out the pros and cons of our approach of doing half now, half later. So like if we were to give you half now and then you come back to us when you need more, so is that something that would be harmful to you, or would it? What are the pros and cons of that from your perspective?
The pros, I don't think that I'm speaking for myself. We haven't discussed this as a board, but no one's nodding, so there's two of us that think it's probably okay. There's three. Okay, so having polled the board, we do believe that, I believe that would work well. As long as we didn't have, I'm going to use probably the wrong word, price gouging on the second half. If we could come up with an agreement that locked the price, half now, half later might even be better for us, cash flow wise. So.
Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, actually, maybe I'll ask Jamie, is there any pros and cons or any of the DPW staff to that approach?
I would say, I don't know pro con, but I would just say, in my view, these are difficult issues, right? And we've been working with Millis and Medway for years now, and 2011 wasn't too long ago. From my standpoint, doing it all now sets them up to be, quite frankly, I know the rate right now is a little more inflated than maybe some would want, right? The price is always going to be a point, but 10 years from now, it's going to be more. It's not, sewer capacity is not going to become less valuable in the future. It's only going to become more. If I were everybody tonight, that's why we're here. By doing both of these, I think you set up obviously Millis for a long time, and we'll hear from Medway soon. But I think this gives them enough capacity for a long foreseeable future. Probably time for all of us to be off the board or out of these jobs, right? And so I think, you know, I would just say the pro of doing this all at once avoids us having to spend more time having to go back and renegotiate something again. So if you went 50,000 gallons, we'd have to come back at a certain amount of time and do another 50,000 gallons. But that's just my quick take on it.
Yeah, I will speak just for me. I don't see a big pro to that. I just don't, to splitting it, because it's hard enough
Yeah.
to get everybody together.
Yeah.
I don't want to put this on somebody else, that we know we need at least 100 now. So,
Yeah, and my only way that we would do it is if there was guaranteed price lock and there was a time specified in the contract.
And if there's a price lock, why not just do it now?
Exactly, cash flow, but that's the only reason. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm a CFO in the real world, so.
All yields, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the three of you for being here, but my question really goes to our town administrator. So Jamie, I remember the pollution control district presentation from years ago, and I remember hearing that Franklin anticipated this very moment and bought that additional capacity ages ago, right? So in respect to our forefathers, because I think they were all men at the time, like, were they just thinking about the potential for growth and they bought up this gigantic amount, or was there another reason that we're not talking about that we might shoot ourselves in the foot if we get rid of this?
Yeah, I think it was, when this started, yeah, go ahead, Liz. Yeah, please.
That was done when the plant was upgraded in 2000 from 4.54 million gallons per day to 5.7, and at that time, Medway and Franklin got that additional capacity. So it wasn't something where Franklin bought it from someone else.
It was just added.
Yep, it was added. Yep.
Right, but it did cost us more money at the
It
time,
did.
right?
Yep, it cost to put in that upgrade and those improvements. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So Jamie,
So the sewer ratepayers in town paid for that.
Yes.
And that's, we're now at a point where that's the decision. Do ratepayers get some money back for all
That
of
they
that? I
paid.
think that's part of the question.
yeah, so my second part, Jamie, then to you is, we sell this to Millis and Medway. It obviously limits our future capacity, but to what end?
Well, by
How much of a whack is this to our, potential growth as a town?
I mean, Doug can give you the percentage because he's probably going to calculate it in his head. But if you look at 2023 to 25, the average flow in Franklin is 2.43 million gallons per day. So even if you sell them 100,000 apiece, these are just based on average numbers of the last 3 years. The town will still have 1.012 million gallons per day remaining. I would also argue, and Doug can speak a little more specifically to this, you're also going to be breaking the ribbon cutting on the Beaver Street Interceptor, which was the oldest infrastructure improvement we needed to make, but that's going to be complete by the end of the year. I don't know what the percentage of sewer pipe that we've replaced in the last 20 years has been, but it's been fairly significant. We've done a lot of upgrades to our system. I think these other towns would agree that we've invested a lot. The sewer ratepayers in this town have paid a lot to have a very, very good system.
Tight system.
It's a very tight system. I can't speak with certainty, obviously, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that if we didn't believe this wasn't doable through both Doug and Liz at the Charles River Pollution Control. If we didn't think this was doable while sustaining our future, we wouldn't be here. That being said, this is a conversation about growth. Is that 1 million gallons per day going to get used up in the next 2 years? No. It's going to take a long time to build a lot of Franklin to use that capacity. So, I mean, is there anything else that you want to add, Doug, or?
No, I would just add, I think historically, it wasn't shown on one of the figures, but if you look historically, the flow that we've been sending to the district has come down drastically. And I think that's twofold, or two reasons for it, is the town has invested a lot of money in removing the groundwater from the sewer, right? So we've been doing a lot of infiltration and inflow work to remove that water so it doesn't get treated, we don't have to pay for it. And two is just plumbing code in general, right? So water usage has come way down just based on plumbing code. So a lot of those two factors I think are really bringing that number down. And so having an extra $1 million or 1 million gallons in capacity I think is more than enough for Franklin now and into the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my questions are all about, I mean, on the surface, it sort of makes sense. It doesn't look like it's a lot of water based on our capacity. I think you just mentioned, you know, how we got the capacity to begin with, because I'm thinking to myself, well, we have all this capacity, we're paying for it somehow. Why are we paying for all this capacity we're not using? Does it make sense to sell? Maybe. I'll be perfectly honest, though. I don't feel like I know enough to say yes or no tonight. And I don't know what more I would need to consider that. But my concern is I just don't know how to quantify 200,000 gallons now over a period of how many years? Like, what's that equivalent to? Like, how much does a Taj across the street, what's the a million gallon, you know? I just don't feel like I understand how much we're actually giving up. I know the statistics and the numbers, but I don't know how to relate that to potential growth.
If I can, I can try to answer that. We just built 324 units at the Glen Ellen. It's over 55 development. We actually permitted them originally for 85,000 gallons. We know that they're pumping on an average of daily, depending on winter, summer, because most of them are snowbirds, so they're not there for the winter. So during the summer, Dave, I believe it's like 50-something thousand gallons at the most. So I mean, if you take like a unit like you just asked over there, so it's not that it's half, but it's, you know, it's originally permitted. Because when we first file with the Charles River District, we have to use 110 gallons per bedroom. I think 55 is 80-something gallons because it's a senior development. So what's permitted at the beginning is the 110 gallons per bedroom, but then actual usage is usually either almost half that because of, like Doug just stated,
Right.
New plumbing codes, toilets, faucets, and things like that. It's much less, and they haven't changed their rates.
Yeah, those numbers that you were talking about, that just comes right from Title V regulations.
Correct.
I don't remember the last time those were updated, but they're,
And I talked to it's Bruce always, about it recently,
it's
and
very
he said the same
conservative,
thing,
and
yeah.
we're never going to use all of that.
But it's just in the aggregate, I don't know what that kind of means or what that translates into, or does that prohibit us from even a larger commercial development one day?
How much Taco Bell do you need to fill that capacity?
Not as much as you used to.
I'm sorry? No. Oh, okay. So I just don't know that I really know well enough to understand how to value this.
I would add, too, to the commercial aspects, a lot of commercial properties or that are going to be bigger users of water and sewer are going to look for ways to recycle
Yep.
within their process, because that comes off their bottom line, right?
I've seen that, these closed loop systems. that they go
Yeah, I
through
mean, we
today.
see it with some of the grow facilities, even Grelick. They kind of do some of those processes because they don't want to have to pay for it. So it's a hard question to answer because every commercial property is going to be different. I think from a residential or that kind of standpoint, we know what that number is based on Title V, and we can assume it's almost going to be like about 50% of what Title V says, but commercial is different.
I mean, intuitively, it feels like we have enough. I just don't know how to make that more than an intuition.
Yeah.
And the other question I would have, maybe it's more for Jamie, is how did we arrive at the $3 million?
So we arrived at it because it's 100,000 gallons per agreement at $15.07 per gallon. which is the 1.507 amount. So each town under each of these agreements, if they were agreed to by the council and agreed by their select boards, in the agreement, there's a payment schedule, and so they would make that one-time payment. And then the operating costs would be, I think, probably through our assessment, annual assessment through Charles River Pollution Control. So that assessment for us would go down a little bit, and we wouldn't be obligated for that capital expense.
And more so over time, based on what you said in the memo, the operational costs would continue to go down.
Right away, we would come down, I think it was 65,000, that's our capital assessment, right? That's right off top. And then the O&M, which is based on the flow that gets sent to the district, would come down over time as the other communities started flowing more.
Right.
And I do want to ask too, because I did read in the attachment that that price of the $15 price was based on a survey that one of our consultants did 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Is that $15?
Well, the one they did, and this one was done earlier this year. It was done in June or April. April or May.
Was the pricing done in 2012?
Some of them were they different years depending on the municipalities? Yeah.
As you can imagine, this is not something that happens every day from a capacity sale standpoint. I don't remember really in Massachusetts alone, I don't think it happens that often. So what they looked at was really the cost to build a new treatment plant or add capacity. So that's kind of how we really get to that number.
As I read through it, it was based on a region-wide kind of a survey of different municipalities and what they would charge.
Yeah.
But I thought it was produced in 2020. My only question is that's
when they looked at,
6
they also
years
looked
ago.
at the connection fees from the different communities as well, to kind of, ballpark and kind of get.
I get it, makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, is that the current number? It's a 6-year-old number.
Yeah, I would say it is.
Are we sure, I guess is my question. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Not to hurt our friends and neighbors, but,
Mr. Chair, just
Go ahead.
just to be clear, there are two different agreements. There's a Millis agreement and a Medway, so they're independent of one another, just so we don't get confused on that.
Yeah, I know.
But in the Millis agreement that's drafted with the request, which I understand, Millis basically said if somebody else is given a lower rate, they would want to have that same rate. Now, y'all could instruct me to take that out, right? If you want to have two different rates, it's all within your bailiwick. But I think that's why this stuff takes years to negotiate. And again, I just want to make sure it's clear. I fully understand and respect that it's very hard to find apples to apples out there on this stuff. You cannot go to other adjacent communities and say, go pull all their numbers, because having excess sewer capacity of this magnitude is so rare. It is hard to find another community that has this much permanent sewer capacity. The last quick thing I'll say is we currently use 2.4 million gallons for all of the public sewer in town. So if you think about what that would mean conceptually, that's like to use that additional million gallons is almost like 30% more of what you have here. And I think that's a question for everybody, right? Like, do you want Franklin in the long term to grow at 30% more than what you have here roughly, right? Because if you're using 2.4 right now and you add another million to 3.4, you're adding about another 25, 30, 35% of development that you have here in Franklin. I mean, right. So I think that's, we do have vacancies in industrial parks. We have an intern right now doing a report and going and checking to see the vacancy ratio. It's not that exorbitantly high. Most of the buildings are reasonably filled or have it. So I think when you're conceptualizing in your head, it is hard to understand, like, what does that development mean? What if we got another big industrial park to come in? How much gallons would that be? And I do understand, and I don't think any of us, other than maybe Doug and Liz, are really full experts in this. But if you're using 2.4 today with the footprint in Franklin, add another million to that, that's a lot of development. That's a fair amount of development.
I agree. I just trying to wrap my head around what's the right way to go.
I can answer you on so the 15.07 was on Arcadis. It was done June 2nd, 2026. wasn't 2020.
Yes, I knew there was a June memo from this year and referred to a memo that was prepared in 20.
Correct, August of 2020.
August of
It was
2020.
some of it was referred to some of that memo, because we had asked Arcadis to do this. This is how long this has been going on. Right. It predates that. I mean, I think we've asked them multiple times through the years.
Okay.
And you know, other factors just throwing in here, like, you know, when we got into this agreement, it was a couple dollars a gallon, right? In the last 6 years, I don't think I need to tell anybody here, costs aren't getting cheaper.
That's why I'm concerned.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it may be,
Yeah.
but I also recognize in a negotiation, again, it's the council's authority here to instruct me to do. If you want to charge people $25 a gallon, we can talk to Millis and Medway about that. But I'm sure they'll also say there's limitations on their end to buy. So it's a really hard, you know, I think you can see I tried to just try to give something right down the middle as possible that could try to at least gain some sort of consensus, so I could get some feedback from all of you on where you want to go on these things. I do think at some point later this fall, even if you don't vote tonight, I do think giving some sort of indication to Medway and Millis of where they stand by September-ish, I think we need to at least as a town say to them kind of yay or nay on something so that they can at least go look at alternatives.
Yeah, and I'd just like to address the price for just a moment of $15. In 2011, it was sold at $1.17 per gallon, not $15 per gallon. In 2019, it was sold at $2.44 a gallon, again, not $15 a gallon. In 2021, it was sold at $3.17 a gallon. And in 2022, it was sold at $4.33 a gallon. So 15 is on a very, very high markup from where it has been, which may be acceptable because you're the sellers. You have to decide what you need to make off of it. But to call $15 possibly on the low end, I'd strenuously object to that. Yeah.
I just don't know, and that's what I think we should try to find out, yeah.
If I could, I started the conversation. Councilor Malloy and I were speaking because I was on the same page. Am I ready to make a decision? It just feels like there's a lot that we needed to know. So I do appreciate the information. I know we've done all the reading, but just the context has been very helpful. Now, from my perspective, I have, from a purely Franklin perspective, let me put it, I had a couple of concerns. One was, what happens if we sell this? How does that really impact our growth, our development? Because I think economic growth, we'd all agree, is a key portion to how this town can remain stable from a financial perspective. So that caused me some concern. And thinking about it, what the impact is to our ability to grow is also worth considering. Now, I was doing the same calculation that our town administrator was doing. Was, if based on the discussion we've had today, for us to truly hit the max, even post sale, we'd have to grow an additional 30-40%. I would take a step back and recognize that that's not something that this town wants to do. I don't think anyone's looking for that type of growth in any near-term perspective. So, so if we don't consider moving forward with this, we're spending a lot of time paying for capacity that we're not anywhere close to using. In sports terms, it's kind of, what is it, guarding grass instead of the person, and I don't like guarding grass. So my thinking here is that if there's an opportunity for us to, help benefit, help our neighbor towns as well as help. As well as help our residents from a balance sheet standpoint, it's something we have to strongly consider. So that I am with Councilor Malloy. This is opaque in some extent. Like, none of us have done this before. This isn't the type of transaction that happens often. But I think as we scale back and kind of look at the bones of it from a what are the benefits and costs to Franklin, which frankly is the way we have to approach it. I think in this case, it feels to me as though the benefits outweigh the costs, at least on the surface. That said, I'm willing to hear more if any of the other council members feel strongly other way, or if we hear more from the people of Franklin who have a particular perspective here.
All right. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you all for the context on what your actual capacity is right now, because I was looking at this chart where it said you're at 73% and calculating what our capacity would be at if we took out 200,000, that would put us at 71%. So I couldn't quite figure out why you all were at the limit and we're not. So I appreciate knowing that it's because you have a lot of places that have commitments to getting on the sewer system. That makes me wonder, Jamie, do we have things that we have permitted, that we have, what about developments that have been approved but haven't been built yet? What is the capacity that we could be at, or does the 71% already factor that in?
So the 71% does not factor that in, but the developments that are outstanding that haven't fully been permitted yet aren't much at all from a flow standpoint. I don't have the total number off the top of my head, but
So
it's
you're
like a
thinking,
percentage.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, not getting close to 80%. No, we'd still stay in the.
And I think to reiterate what Jamie said, I don't think we would have ever approached the council here tonight if we thought we were anywhere close to our capacity. So.
Okay, thank you. I think that was my biggest concern, was knowing, okay, what we have planned, do we have the room for that plus whatever growth we anticipate to have? I agree with what we have said many times now, not to beat this dead horse, but we need to make sure that we are balancing future growth. We've all said that development, whether that's commercial and industrial or homes, is a priority for getting Franklin out of a tough financial situation. And so knowing that will come with a sewage requirement. At the same time, I agree very much with Ken that I think this is I think it's a good option. I have two questions for Jamie, and one is, and I don't even know if this is possible, but is leasing that, does that change anything if we're leasing it? No, okay, I'm seeing no's. I mean, I guess, okay. So, never mind. That was an easy question, thank you. And then, yeah. I know, but yeah, thank you.
Once you connect the house to it, you can't tell them they can no longer use it.
I'm sorry.
Correct, yes, I realize. And then my other question for Jamie was, if things have, I understand that got the 15.07 number from this, but if things have been sold for $4 recently, what is the discrepancy in that number? Like, what is if it's being sold for $4, where did this $15.07 figure come from?
It's really a middle ground of what generally, and again, I think there could be critique, and I understand those opinions, but Arcadis is an extraordinarily reputable firm. The town's been using them for decades, certainly a lot longer than myself or even other employees been here. And it's just looking at a general market basket from around the country and East Coast and saying, okay, and I think Doug explained it earlier, maybe Liz did, when you're looking at new development now and you're looking at new capacity, you're generally getting up around that number. Those numbers that are in there. And the 1507 is just smack dab in the middle of the data points from on that spectrum of 907 to 2348. It's just right in the middle. And it was just a place for me to start where I could get support from, at least conceptually, to start talking to Millis and Medway without having other public input from the council and others. And it was just a starting point to say, there it is. Also, part of this is one of the select board members just mentioned, we're in the cellar capacity. we have a responsibility to do the best we can for Franklin residents. And the sewer ratepayers have paid a lot of money into this system over a long period of time for, quite frankly, a near A-plus system. If we've got additional capacity and we can sell a little bit off to help our neighbors and help their issues, I think that the ratepayers of Franklin should be, reinvested in some sort of way. And I think that money coming back to Franklin will help alleviate, you'll have a chunk of money in a sewer enterprise fund that will grow with interest. And if there are repairs down the line, or we need to pay debt exclusion payments, or we need to do other things, we're now taking that money from other communities and now putting it back into the system and hopefully stabilizing sewer rates for a while. And if we have another capital improvement or another emergency, we can use this money without having to go to ratepayers for an increase. So honestly, I've probably heard 150 different opinions in the last 7 years from people everywhere about this issue. And as you can imagine, someone in my shoes, it's really hard to thread the needle on those 100 opinions of where everything is. And I still feel like I have to do the best I can for the sewer ratepayers, but not also put other communities in a position where it's just like almost insulting to say $25 a gallon, $30 a gallon. I also think that this number of 1507 is affordable for Medway and Millis. And I say that because the way Medway and Millis, and we should ask Medway to maybe come up and do a short presentation as well, I think the way, they'll have, a plan on how they're going to deal with these issues in their own communities, right? And so if you're going down to 907 and you're kind of selling it a little too cheap, maybe. Also, since 2020, the cost of this stuff has gone way up. So to build a new sewer plant or get new capacity through DEP today, good luck. You ain't paying anywhere near this. You're paying way more money per gallon to build a new plant, to build more capacity, to do more. You're going to pay way more than this. And I think that's what this study looks at, is if you're looking at other modernized plants like ours around the East Coast and some of these other cities that are referenced, you're going to see that they're paying a lot more money than 1507 per gallon. So it's an imperfect thing. I'm not going to sit here and not admit that, but out of all of this negotiation for the past 7 years, I personally felt, and I think the DPW also, and I think Doug and Lit, we just feel like this is doing the best we can given all of the factors here. This is a doable number for both towns. It's a good reinvestment for our ratepayers. Whatever the analogy Ken used about the grass on the field, I don't know exactly what it was, but it's kind of perfect because we are paying a lot more money and our ratepayers are paying money into a system where they're not really getting that much. Yep. I hope that's a little bit helpful.
I'm just looking for clarity, so I appreciate that. And where were the $4 and something? Where was that figure coming from? So if we know
the dollars I quoted?
Yeah.
Prior contracts that were signed by the town to other towns. And I think Medway, the people from Medway can explain how those were arrived at better than we can, because a lot of these are their contracts. We've been to the well once.
I think you got to close your meeting so we can get Medway up there.
Trust me, I know that. We're going to recess. I declare the meeting. I don't have a gavel. That is going to change by Monday night. I declare us a recess.
Thank you.
Come on up, Medway.
Mike, Dennis?
Three-way meeting.
And they only brought one select board member, and everybody probably knows Mike, the town manager, grew up in Franklin. So you're going to get a history lesson, right, Mike?
You got it. Thank you very much. You'll be attending. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
former town councilor Mike
Oh,
Boyd.
boy.
Oh, boy.
There's a lot of reading we don't expect to read tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chair, members of the council, thank you very much. As Jamie said, I'm Michael Boynton. I'm the town manager in Medway. To my left, and the person that was kind enough to hand out that packet of information for you is Select Board Chairman Dennis Crowley.
By the way, I work for Michael.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
And one other thing before we start, I want to make a comment to Michael. We need to upgrade our select board.
This is really nice looking.
We're working on that now. We're actually in design for a new town hall now. Thank you very much, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. This is I'm extremely passionate about this topic, and part of it is because, as Jamie said, I grew up here. I grew up in Franklin. I remember when the sewer plant, I actually remember when the sewer beds were on Pond Street, and I remember why the sewer facility was brought about. Now, mind you, I was in, I don't know, 7th grade, 6th grade, but nevertheless, we spent a lot of time understanding this plant, and as an elected member of the council where you're sitting now, 30-some-odd years ago, we had issues relative to sewer here in Franklin, and behind me, it's like reunion time. The former town administrator, Mr. Bauer, is sitting back there, and Wolfgang had actually negotiated some upgrades and necessity changes for the town of Franklin in working with the town of Medway. So just a real quick trip down memory lane. And I know Jamie goes crazy when I do this, but essentially here's what you have. You have a facility that, as Liz said, was built in 1979. It went online in 1979. There are 4 individual district agreements. There is an agreement with the district for the town of Franklin, an agreement with the district for the town of Medway. We were the first 2. We were the owners of that facility, and we continue to be the owners of that facility. But Millis and Bellingham also have agreements. Each of those agreements are virtually identical. There are certain capacity load changes and differences in there. But one of the things I'll call out to your attention, which is one of the documents that we handed to you, is each one of those documents has a Section 308. Section 308 in the district agreement actually stipulates how sewer capacity would be transferred to new municipalities, but 4 different times since that plant went online, that formula has been utilized. And that formula does exactly what you folks were asking questions about tonight. It recovers the cost, in this case for the town of Franklin, for the ability to pay back the costs with interest that the town of Franklin has sunk into that facility since 1979. And I think back to why that facility went in Medway in 1979, because Franklin didn't have the space for it. There was no place in the town of Franklin to discharge to the Charles River, but in Medway there was. So what does that mean? In terms of the neighborly approach, in Medway, we get the complaints about the odor. We roll the fire department down there when the alarm goes off. We send the police down there when there's a burglar alarm, and we plow the streets to make sure that the staff can get there. So in terms of a partnership, there is more of a partnership to this than strictly what the capacity numbers are. And the original capacity numbers were arrived at way back in 1979 based upon the population ratios for both towns. So Franklin was about 17,000, 18,000 people. Medway was about 7,000, 6,000 or 7,000 people. And here you are at, 35 today, and we're at 14, almost 14 and a half today. So Franklin certainly has grown, and Franklin has made improvements to its sewer system along the way. Mine Brook was first, Shepherd's Brook came along, and now you're doing the Beaver Street upgrade to those old pipes. Those are definitely upgrades that were necessary for the town of Franklin, and we recognize that Franklin has a cost to that, directly to Franklin. In 1995, Wolfgang brought to the town to the town council, and I was sitting on the council to vote this, brought to the town council a resolution to enter into a partnership with the town of Medway once again to provide for sewer for the homes up off of Skyline, off of Populatic, et cetera, to get sewer from Medway, from Franklin to the Charles River District. You know where that sewer goes? Right through Medway's pipes. Do you know what Medway got from the town of Franklin in 1995? Not a dime. Do you know what Medway gets today? Not a dime. But we service, with our pipes, between the town line and the district, we service that sewer line. So why are we here tonight? Well, Medway certainly is at 92%, but we are, as we continue to monitor our numbers on a monthly basis, we look and see where we are in terms of inflow and infiltration I&I. And we've been working very hard, like Millis has, and certainly like Franklin has for decades, to improve our I&I flow, reduce it so that we are not paying to treat clean water. When we do that, and when you look at the numbers during the dry seasons, we are well below our 955,000 gallon capacity. So Medway is the second largest capacity holder to Franklin, but clearly over the years, development has extended the or challenged that capacity limit, and that's why we're looking to this. In 2019, before Jeff had retired, we approached the town of Franklin and said, we want to do this. We would like to purchase additional capacity. The number went from 33,000. We were ranging from 33,000 gallons to 100,000 gallons. Jeff looked and said, you know what? We have a formula. Let's get CDM involved. And CDM came to, at Franklin's dime, did a look and said, okay, based upon the agreement, Medway's agreement, Franklin's agreement, based upon the agreement, and that's in your packet, the 2019 cost was just about $2.50 a gallon. I forget, what was it? $2.40 a gallon. COVID hit. Jeff retired, COVID hit, and started working with Jamie on the same process. And we tried to regroup, and Franklin had, Franklin had. CDM, again, looked specifically at the agreement. Again, keep in mind, this facility was 90% paid for with federal funds back in the 1970s. And when you had federal funds back in the day, there was a requirement that communities, individual recipients of federal dollars couldn't profit from those dollars. So I would suggest to you that the crafters of those original agreements actually contemplated that scenario where somebody's going to have more capacity someday. And on 4 different occasions, in 1983, capacity was sold to the town of Millis. In 1985, capacity was sold to the town of Bellingham. And in both of those circumstances, Medway and Franklin contributed, excess capacity at the time to those towns. So we partnered together and contributed excess capacity. And in 2011, Franklin sold capacity both to Millis and again to Bellingham. In all 4 of those circumstances, the district agreement was utilized to make the determination as to what the payment would be back to the town of Franklin, essentially to recover the cost with interest of what Franklin has paid since 1979, and more specifically, since they started incurring debt in 1999.
At Section 308, if anybody's that first document, Section 308 is the formula for calculating, and that's exactly what CDM did when they went back and did it in 2019.
In 2021, we did again see the results of CDM's analysis. And CDM said, listen, you've added a couple of more years of payments on there, the interest has gone up, so the new cost is $3.17 a gallon. If you're going to buy 100,000 gallons, it's $3.17 a gallon. And the price per gallon actually fluctuates based upon the amount that you buy.
Mike, can I interrupt you just a second?
Let me, I'm on a roll, please.
There's something that was put in after the first DDM,
Yes.
DDM.
So we've kind of gone silent. Jamie and I have had some conversations over the years. There's a document in there that was a draft agreement that we thought we had after the 2021 report that is it was actually the same format. So to Jamie's point, the format that you see, and he made this point, that the format of the proposed agreements for Millis and Medway that are in your packet are identical to what was done in the past. It's true in terms of the wording, but the formula that's proposed to be used that got you to $15.07 is drastically different than what was done in any prior sale of sewer capacity. Make no mistake, I believe Millis recognizes this, and Medway certainly recognizes this. Franklin is under no obligation to sell anybody sewer capacity. We get that. Totally understand that. But we also know that we've worked together in the past on things to try to bring this together. The Arcadis report and our position from the town of Medway is flawed, because the Arcadis report that was done just recently, I believe it was May or June of this year, referred back to that letter that Dennis talks about from 2020. And that was talking about sewer connection fees, i.e. you're an individual customer that wants to connect to the Franklin public sewer system. What should the town of Franklin be properly charging those individual users that want to tie into the system? And there's so much that goes into that, because you've got infrastructure fees, you've got cost factors, DPW's time, all of that goes into that. Those are apples and oranges in our opinion, because in the grand scheme of things, First off, all of those survey numbers came from different parts of the country. I think New Haven might have been the closest. Minneapolis, St. Paul was in there, but there was nothing that was in there in terms of Massachusetts sewer connection charges. So again, we would make the argument that the sewer connection charges are not the same as selling capacity within the existing sewer facility. We really appreciate the fact that we have an opportunity to work with Jamie, and I appreciate the fact that Jamie is doing what he needs to do to try to support the town of Franklin. That's his job. My job is to try to support and recognize the challenges that Medway would have. I can tell you $1.5 million for 100,000 gallons of sewer capacity is really, really exorbitant. It is not something that we are in a position to do. I understand the Millis situation. We had a brief conversation before the meeting started. I think that there is a great suggestion that perhaps there is more work that needs to be done on this. I think that there would be a great opportunity for a representative, and I'm going to steal an idea that was presented to me, a representative from the council as well as each of the select boards and the 3 administrators getting together to continue to work on this. Because as drafted right now, the Medway Select Board, and I'm going to look to him, would not support the agreement. We really would like to continue to partner together. And my closing statement would be really simple. Right now, Franklin's in the driver's seat. There will come a point in time where Franklin might not be in the driver's seat. And if you're not in that driver's seat, you would not want to be sitting where I'm sitting today, trying to understand how another community, who we have partnered with since the early 1970s, 50 years of partnership, actually wants this much money on a formula that is not consistent with the agreement. I appreciate your time.
Let me just close with one thing, is if you were sitting in this position and you're representing your residents in your town, you would be reading these documents and looking at it the same way that I am looking at it, because I need to protect my residents and the taxpayers in the town. I'm not an expert at this. I've been on the select board for 21 years. I look at the rates. I don't look at this stuff. But I can look at documents, and I can read documents. And if you read these documents at section 308 that we talked to, that we gave you a package, it's been utilized 4 times. It's not ever not been utilized, selling capacity. So when we look at these documents, we look at the outlay that came from this other company that we've always used CDM, you've used CDM. You hired CDM to come up with these other rates, not us. You paid them. You went out and this. We don't even know who this company is. I don't want to speak for the authority, but I don't think the authority's ever used this company before. They've always used CDM or another consultant. So when I look at this and it says a sewer connection, I went to Michael. I said, "What is a sewer connection? Why are they doing it this way?" And that for the love of us, I honestly can't figure out why are you using the 1705 based upon the average price of sewer connections in 5 cities and towns outside of Massachusetts. So, Mike, just closing is, you do the same thing I would be doing right here, trying to protect your residents as well. So, and Michael says, it's your capacity. You know, we want to be friendly neighbors. We all want to work together. But we always want to be fair and reasonable as well. So I like Michael's suggestion, and hopefully the council will consider it, and we can come to a solution and get a group together to see if we can solve this issue. Thank you.
Mike, you had a question.
Yeah. Through you to Liz. Liz, I think you made the statement that the 5.7 is the max, correct? It is. We do not see that number changing in the near future, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. If Medway's capacity is just under 1 million gallons a day, they're at 92%. Tell me what happens when they get to 1.1 million and we haven't done this agreement. What happens if they bust their ceiling and we haven't sold them the 100,000 gallons? What happens in the agreement?
Yep, we would have a lot of discussions before we'd even get there. We'd have a lot of discussions on removing I&I. I would say that the DEP and EPA would be asking the district questions about that, and then they would be asking Medway, how would they come down under their capacity?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd be talking about how to do that, but in theory, Medway's response to that probably would be, we have to stop all development.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep, so there would probably be discussions on moratoriums, and that no sewer connections can be put in until you're under capacity. Yep, and those would be things that DEP would be looking at.
Okay. Has the board itself agreed, or are they in agreement with selling the 100,000 to each of the municipalities? Have they weighed in on that?
No, the board obviously supports this. We think that it would be great to see the towns be able to grow and be within their capacity. As far as, the mechanisms, that's for the towns to decide upon.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the board does agree that Millis needs 100,000 and Medway needs 100,000.
We really do push that back to the towns each town's responsible for maintaining their capacity and being under it and doing what they need to do to stay under.
So the board's taken no stance as to the amount of what should be transferred between the two?
That's correct. Yep, that's for the town's planning, for their sewer.
But wouldn't that be part of the privy of the board to make a suggestion that you need to be you cannot exceed any more than 90% capacity? So, yeah, I would think that the board would be giving a recommendation as to what they believe the amount should be, to almost to Councilor Morangello's. And in fact, I'm kind of hesitant with Millis selling 100,000 because it changes the equation. They actually end up having, when you talk about percent, granted it's much smaller numbers, but their capacity goes to 63, ours goes to 70.
Yeah, I know.
It changes the form. Now, granted, we're talking 2.6 million versus 4.46. It's a different capacity, but that's a pretty big swing. So I'm surprised that the board doesn't have a recommendation to what that amount should be. Just more of a comment than anything else.
Yep. I don't. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say it publicly tonight. I'm certainly, as a good neighbor, we'll figure a way to sell something to them. I don't think I'm in a position, to Councilor Malloy's point, and actually to the three councilors over there, to make that decision to do it absolutely tonight, because Councilor Malloy brought up a good thing, and it is always my pet peeve with this stuff. We don't have all the facts, meaning, and it's very easy to get, Doug, which is we can look at, over the last year, what the average commercial building uses for sewer capacity, what the average home uses for sewer capacity. Because you said that you don't expect much. Well, a couple things jump out to me. If you look at the high point, we actually got to 3.11 8 years ago. 3.11, if we drop down to 3 points, means we get to 90% capacity. And that's with no growth. It hasn't taken into account the Grove Street. It hasn't taken into account East Central Street. Right. It hasn't taken into others. So there is going to be 500 new homes, apartments, whatever bedrooms, however we have to calculate it. There is a way to project out what we need for capacity here. If we say we have the potential to build 2,000 more bedrooms, what does 2,000 bedrooms use for capacity? So there's a way for us to, I believe we're going to have enough, but I do think we need some more facts before we just willy-nilly sell 100,000 here and there. But I will promise you, my promise to you as an individual, it's just my promise, that we will come up with something to sell you. Now, I agree with Jamie. And I understand what your methodology you used, but we have an asset. If you are a man crying for thirst in the desert, you'll pay whatever you need to get that water. And I agree with you, Jamie. I would hope that the intention of doing this, of bringing in $3 million, we could then promise, again, very similar to what we talked about, but we could then promise the residents of Franklin, you're not going to see a rate increase on your water and sewer bill or your sewer bill for 3 years.
3 years, 5 years.
So in some ways, we're giving it back to the community for all the time, all that investment, so we're giving it. So there is a value. But we are in the driver's seat, and I will say this, 1507, I hate 07. I hate cockamamie. Round it up, make it $15 for crying out loud. But my point is, we're in the driver's seat. And I know you mentioned Section 308, and I was reading that section. That section talks about selling to municipalities outside the plan, not in the plan. So it is, if someone else wants to buy in, that's what they pay. It has nothing, now that may have been what we used in the past, but I can tell you that agreement, that wording is only for someone else who wants to buy in. If you're in it, there's a completely, show me in the document, and that's actually poorly on the design of this agreement. It should have already had that outlined. If you have to sell it, what the price is. But this is only for outside, not inside. So as it relates to the price, we'll figure that out. But my point is, we're going to sell you something because we don't want you to stop development. But also at the same time, as you've heard, I'm a pro-development guy. Within reason. I'm looking at Mark over here. We're not going to build a 70-story building, blah, blah, blah. But we do need new growth to pay for taxes. So I need to make sure that if I'm going to sell 200,000 gallons, that I'm not going to be in the same position 10 years from now coming back to you to buy 25,000 gallons back. So, so as it relates to Medway, my comment is we'll figure it out for Millis, kind of like your suggestion, Max, 50-50, blah, 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 but we'll figure that out. But with that, for now, I'll yield my time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I prefer to decide something tonight, whether it's, I think that, you know, we have a limited capacity as a council, and the more we kick this around, the less we have time for other things. I'm also concerned about, you know, sometimes you have to make decisions with the information you have, even if you don't have all the information, and you just got to make a decision. That's just the reality of things. In terms of how we, you know, negotiate things, I think we should let Jamie take the lead. You know, I think we should let Jamie take the lead as our lead negotiator. You know, we pass this as is, let him negotiate. I think to have too many cooks in the room, we just negotiate off of each other and negotiate down, and I don't think that's a good thing. So I prefer to pass this as either as is. If you can't pass as is, pass half. But I think we should pass something tonight because, like I said, we can't just keep going back and forth over this over and over again. It's just not going to be good for us. So I yield.
I got a question. With your building in Medway, how fast are you going to get to that?
That's a great point, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Right now, we believe that continuing to reduce I&I is going to keep us pretty constant. We will not get to that immediate threshold for at least another 10 years, 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years.
And that's a fair belief right now. Again, we've done.
I mean, it's not like next week you're going to be over 100.
No, the reason we saw a substantial growth is because we hit our 10% 40B number. So we saw some development that came in with a couple of large housing complexes. There's another one that's proposed now. Aside from that, there's not a ton of growth that's sitting on the table. We've done a lot of work locally for that. I think that what we will continue to do, because the question was, what do you do if you get to your capacity? We're going to continue to take I&I out. We have a substantial amount of rainwater, clean water that gets into the system, so we're going to continue to try to take that out. So removing that gives us probably another 50 to 100,000 gallons that we estimate we should be able to fix. I think the challenge, though, again, if I may, the issue with that 308, Councilor Blank is absolutely correct. That's the way it's worded. It's been used 4 times in the past. And I think the problem gets to, and Jamie alluded to this earlier, that if there's an ultimate dispute as to somebody that has to come in from a legal framework, you know, legal minds that get together to have to weigh in on this, that's the only thing we can go back to and point to, is that that's been the process. We would be willing to have, again, we would be willing to have another engineering firm. If you want CDM to do it again, we'll chip in on the cost and have another firm come to the table and continue to take a look at, hey, what does this document mean? How do we do this? Because again, there is a legal document that each of the 4 towns has. And that's the piece that we're so hung up on.
Mike, to your point, though, those 4, you're absolutely correct. 2 of them were new buy-ins, Millis and Bellingham. But 2 of them were additional buys afterwards that they used the swamp mill for. So the precedence was set for those 2 as well. The way the document is written, Norfolk could come to you And you would have to sell, if you wanted to sell Norfolk Capacity, being a good neighbor, you would be selling Norfolk Capacity at probably $4, $5. And you're turning around and sending Medway, whose plant is in the facility and providing all the services, no, you're not going to get that. The other thing is we're spending an awful lot of extra money on I&I. So that keeps our sewer rates. We'd love to be able to reduce the sewer rates as you would like to reduce your sewer rates. But we keep pumping money into the I&I system to try to keep our capacity on down.
I have just a quick question because Mike brought it up and I'll let you have your time to talk. But it was, Doug was going to answer and he didn't really get a chance to answer, which was around the projects that are on the table right now. Did you factor those other projects in to the numbers that you're presenting for our percentage?
Yeah, so I think Carolyn kind of asked it before. So the percentages that are laid out on the paper that you have in front of you are just current day, right?
Okay.
But didn't account for that.
Okay.
And back to Mr. LeBank's point, we can look at the developments that we know that are coming down the line and get you a number based on Title V of what that additional capacity is going to need. And like I said before, those Title V numbers are going to be way higher, more conservative than what we'll actually realize once those developments are put in. For instance, I looked on, while I was sitting over there, 121 Grove Street, I think there's 556 bedrooms, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Then there's some other criteria for Title V. They're projecting 61,000 gallons per day. So if that kind of gives you a frame of reference. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would like to understand those numbers.
Yeah, no,
before we
understand
make a
that.
decision.
Can I just, a real quick follow-up, sorry, Jane.
That's fine.
Real quick follow-up on that. You said, so it's permitted, right, the Title V is at a certain, but the usage comes in lower. But we still have to permit at that higher number, right? So even if we had more things come on, we'd still have to be factoring in that higher usage,
Correct.
right?
Yes, so we permit at that number, but what we actually realized, and I think Mr. Link indicated, like I can actually pull data of what different developments are actually producing. You know, we have data from the Taj.
Yeah.
So that would be a good, more relevant, newer construction. We have data from commercial developments. So I can pull that in and present that to you so you have a better idea of there's the Title V number, and then there's what actually happens. Reality.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate it. I just feel like
They're two different things.
Right, but I just feel like we have to be, we would limit our permitting capabilities, right? If we have to permit at a higher rate, no?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because you're dealing with, this is where this stuff gets a little sloppy. It's just, you're permitting in one thing, but in reality, you're using less. And I think even Mike said this for Medway, out of all the I&I work that's been going in, all technology that's going in, we're using less capacity today than we were several years ago. So even though you're permitting more and you theoretically are having more sewerage, but ratepayers in Franklin are using less, it's really because the system has become far more tight, technology's gotten better. And I think when you look over 10 or 20 years, obviously engineering and technology is just going to get that much stronger. So in reality, even if it's permitted at 61,000, they're not using anywhere near that. So Doug's numbers in the memo are based on actual usage.
Yeah, actual usage.
So, but we can pull, I'm not arguing by the way, we can pull all those numbers together. We can get a list of the at least permitted developments, and we can try to at least do some sort of scoping out to see what that is. And we're happy to also get some trends over the last 15 years and say on average each year what is it, so we can show that even over a 10 or 15 year time frame, and I'm sure the numbers in Millis and Medway are probably the same because all systems are getting stronger and investing a lot more money and time into these things. So everybody's systems are getting tighter and more efficient, right? So they're going to ask, that's how Millis is saying, well, we only need 100,000 for almost forever because their system's going to tighten up much more as well, and they're not really going to need, far more than that within some sort of time frame that's reasonable of 20 years or so, right? After that, the world's going to be different, and who knows what that comes. But at least the next couple decades,
Plus, if you, just to jump on that, if you think about what we've done as a Commonwealth over the last probably 10 to 15, 20 years with the infrastructure that's going into people's homes, the new code requirements that are in there, you're not selling as much water as you used to sell because you're not, the toilets are low flush, you have better faucet systems. So consequently, you're not actually having as much sewer flowing down the stream, too.
Sorry.
No,
I was just saying, sorry to Jane because I cut her off.
but what I'm saying, did Medway sell Millis sewer?
In 1983, yes.
So how many gallons did you sell them?
I think Franklin and Medway sold.
Yeah, that's when we came online, so as each of you sold us sewer at that
Each
point.
of you-
Yeah,
oh,
it was
that's when
equal
you
amount,
came
I believe, or
online.
maybe proportional.
400,000 Franklin gave, and I think Medway gave 100,000.
128, yeah.
100,000. Yes, so it was, Millis got 500,000 on the first go-around, 400 from Franklin, 100 from Medway. I wish I had it back.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion regarding adjournment. I'd like to make a motion regarding adjournment. I'm not, because it's coming up, so I'd like to make a motion regarding.
Well, we gotta finish this.
Well, I'm going to prevent that. Yeah.
I think it's at the end of the topic.
We haven't voted on anything, so.
When this topic is ended,
When this
we need to
topic
do that.
ends, then we
If I could just make one comment, because Mr. LeBlanc said that maybe we don't need it because we're at 72%. Unlike Medway, and we're in a rapid growth stage right now. We have permitted projects that are going to put us into the 90% range as soon as they build. And we're trying to be proactive so we don't hit that 90%. So right, today I'm at 72. 3 years from now, I'm close to 90 if we don't get this extra capacity. And we are taking our capacity number very seriously. We're not planning to exceed it. We want to hit it. And that's why we're being proactive today. So we may not need it on paper today, but as soon as shovels hit the ground, we're going to absolutely need it. So don't cut us back to 50.
Yeah, no, I know where Mike's going. Go ahead, Ted.
Wait.
No, I think James.
Thank you.
It's okay.
We gotta move on here. Let's go.
Quickly, I sympathize with both of you, and you're right. Your job is to represent the residents of your town, and I have complete respect that that is what you guys are trying to do. And we have to represent ours. I think, yes, as neighbors, we will need to help you out because we would want the same help. The price point, I think, is something we need to start talking about a little bit more. I'm not sure I'm comfortable on all of it for that. And I do agree with everybody else that is saying we need more detail because ultimately, once we give this up, anything happens, we're not getting it back. So before we can say yes or no, I think we need to be very clear on where we will sit when all of the pending projects that have already been approved are up and running, and even taking into consideration some of the ones that maybe not have been approved yet, but potentially could, because that is a big change. And I think once we do that, then we can figure it out and come up with a number. I do think that we should help, and I'm not against that at all. I just, like, again, I'm not comfortable making a decision to vote for it tonight.
I agree.
And I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be quick. This is a question to you guys. You mentioned in the initial part of your presentation that there were costs that you were incurring as a town because the plant falls in your town. You mentioned police, fire, plowing the roads. Do you know what that cost is on an annual basis?
Off the top, I don't know.
Okay. My suggestion would be to quantify that number and pass that on to the Pollution Control District with a bill that we're all paying into, because you guys shouldn't have that burden simply because the facility is in your town. Right? If it's a facility that's benefiting 4 towns and there's real costs to running that facility, which I would include police, fire, and plowing, then that should be quantified and that should be spread out, because at no point should you bear that burden.
Counselor, I think the biggest cost that would be out there, and this is a difficult one because Franklin's also in the same situation with a regional institution, meaning Tri-County, is what's the property tax loss? That's ultimately the big one. If you have a facility of this size and the value of it, that's difficult to, I mean, I can quantify it. I can have the assessors do it and say, what's the value? I know what you're saying. I think that our forefathers made a decision about the location of this facility being in Medway for a reason, and it makes sense. And to date, no one's made a complaint about those services that we've provided. That being said, we need to actually factor that into this discussion and this negotiation.
Yeah, no, and I only bring it up because maybe you're not complaining about it, but you brought it up, right? So if it's going to be factored into the conversation of what these rates are going to be or what these future agreements are going to be, then, in my opinion, take it off the table and let's all share that so that we're all doing the same exact thing to help support that facility, right? But,
Jamie's writing a note to North Attleboro tomorrow from Tri-County.
and as he rightfully should, but thank you.
I mean, just to follow up, what you were talking about is the number, we always have a problem like you have with sewer rates. Water and sewer rates are constantly going up.
By the way, there's only one select board member that complains about it.
Except for the residents complaining about water and sewer rates all the time. Enterprise accounts, they want to eliminate the enterprise accounts and roll it into the tax rates. We get it all the time. It is, when Michael's point was yes, and the other point was, why aren't they paying taxes? There's no real estate taxes coming into their property. And you said it's always been like that since 1977. And we've never brought it up. Nobody's even brought it up at all in the past. We have to dance around it when a resident asks why aren't they paying taxes.
Yeah,
Okay,
Tri-County doesn't
fair
pay
enough.
any taxes. You have Medway people coming there too, so we're in the same boat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Sounds like these guys.
All right. Go ahead.
Bobby.
Go ahead, Jim.
Super quickly, could I ask the council if the September 2nd meeting is right after Labor Day?
Yeah.
Once you get past that, you're getting into the facilities, the tax workshops. Is a couple more months worth it? Is that a date that we could maybe aim for to come back and revisit these, or does the council want to punt this out a little further towards the holidays, just because your schedule gets really, really junked up? I do think Councilor Marangelo does bring up a fairly good point. I think we can pull together the data sets that requested and maybe represent them on the 2nd, but
Can you share them in advance?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
I would say.
Happy to do that. Yeah.
Why don't we do that on the 2nd?
And we'll share the data sets we get with Medway and Millis as well.
And then
100%.
if Millis and Medway want to get together, I'm willing to get together with a couple of the other people and we can work together.
That's all we ask for.
And see if we can come up with anything. So, Dennis, you got my number, so just call me and we can figure it out and we'll get together and we can talk and see what's going on.
Sure.
Why don't we do that?
September 2nd?
What's up?
10 o'clock.
Go ahead.
Thanks for the time tonight. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Chairman. Mark Minichelli, 31 Longfellow Drive. I just have a couple of questions. I don't have a particular view on this one way or the other. I think you all have to represent the town of Franklin more so than anybody else, right? So, but my two questions have to do with, first, one of the justifications that was brought up was that there's a number of residents that are on private septic that might want to hook up. Do we know what that percentage is in Franklin? Do we have any idea how many people are on private septic right now that might need to hook up?
30% of the town is on septic. Not all of them would have the ability to hook up just because there's no sewer in front of their house.
Right. So what percentage is likely? What percentage is likely to hook up?
If I had to just take
you
a
don't
guess,
have to. You could come back to it later.
I can get you that number.
Yeah, or not to me, but to them.
I'll get you that. That would be part of the. That's a good point.
Yeah. And then secondly, we have excess capacity in sewage, right? We have excess capacity in water supply. if we have more excess capacity in sewage than we have in water, to me, that would signal that we have enough to give some away, right? Because our limiting factor then would be water rather than sewage. So can somebody look at that calculation as well? I mean, are we matched up well so that we're going to run out of sewage when we run out of water, or is it one going to go before the other?
They're pretty equal, but yeah, I think we could make that part of the presentation.
Well, that would be kind of hard for me because I'm on well, but I have sewer.
Yeah.
How are you going to justify what I have?
Yeah.
You can't.
But I mean, on average, it might.
Yeah. And on average, too, I think a single-family home uses more water because of irrigation, other uses that don't go down the sewer. So it's
Right.
or just personal consumption, too.
Okay.
Bobby, excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
That gentleman sitting there, did you have a question before?
I don't know if his.
2 minutes.
Go ahead. I thought your
was on this
question would have been
topic,
answered with everything that was
It pretty
said.
much has. Just to refresh, I'm Franny Niskowitz. I live at 445 Beverly Road.
Okay.
I've been on public sewer since 1980, when I moved to Franklin. And I know a little bit about this stuff. I actually worked with John J. McCahill and Norm Restano when they were original board members for the Charles River District. So I know a little bit about it. But the reason I'm here is that I saw this even yesterday on the Franklin Observer, whatever it is, that the meeting was going to happen. And I started printing off some documentation. And what I found, and it's pretty obvious, and I think Stephen pointed it out, some of the data that was used to justify the $15 seems a little bit not right. It's data from all over the country rather than data from Massachusetts, and the costs here are higher. Also, you don't know how big the plants are. The bigger the plant is, the lower the cost per gallon per day. Just makes sense. Smaller plants cost more. So all that information and then averaging them all probably doesn't make sense, plus the calculations were a little bit off. So I thought maybe what happened is that maybe this $15 was like discussed among all these people and they came up with it. But I think to hold that as the basis doesn't make sense. And I get a lot of respect for Mike and his work in Medway. Not that I don't respect the folks from Millis, but he knows a lot about this town. And he's got some really good points about the original agreements that were signed. However, that was then, this is now. We invested a lot of money in upgrades to the plant, the expansion of the plant. Those numbers need to be factored in as to costs that have been sunk. And that's how typically these costs are generated. Cost expended, cost to be shared. So rather than using average numbers of something that's basically connections of houses versus somebody buying capacity, and there's been capacity bought in Massachusetts, not a lot, but there's some data out there, and I think that information would be more useful to you, more relevant for you, and figure out, does $15 make sense? Does something higher make sense? And you can justify it. So that's my point.
I just want to say, Millis still has to adjourn.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I'm generally in favor of this. I wouldn't vote for it now. I think we need more information. We need the numbers. Generally in favor of helping other towns out. I think there's a win-win that we can come up with for a price. We just have to work on that negotiation. The other thing, no one said this yet, but this will give us time to hear from the townspeople too, for our residents. And we haven't really, they're hearing this for the first time. Maybe they've seen it, but I'd like to understand where they're, get their feedback too, so we know how they feel about it, because this is really their asset. That's all I have to say. Hand it back to the chair.
All right, thanks. Right now, we have to take a vote to extend the meeting.
I make a motion to extend the meeting.
Second.
Discussion?
Till what time?
11.
Till 11?
It won't go more than an hour. Right. So, all in favor?
Aye.
So Jamie, do we table these resolutions? Or do we just skip?
Take no action? There's just no action?
You can just, just don't take any action, or you continue them to September 2nd, whatever. Just leave them without action.
It's fine if we
You
do.
don't get that, you don't need to get that hung up on procedure on that.
Yeah, you've already agreed to September 2nd, so I think we're good.
Do you want us to formally vote on tabling them? or-
Should we open it?
Okay.
It's okay.
Should we open the motion? I don't think
No,
we
no,
did. Yeah.
no,
So
so we just let it go.
just ignore it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So go to E, C, and D.
Yep,
B, C, and
B,
so
C, and
B,
D.
C, and D, and we'll go right to E.
Go to E.
Go right to E.
So just note for the record, for minute purposes, that it's a consensus not to act upon.
All right.
Read off the three
Is
resolutions.
everybody in agreement, bro? We didn't.
Everybody in agreement that we're gonna do this September 2nd?
Yeah.
Yes. So, so we will
Just taking no action on B, C,
take
and D.
no action on resolutions 26-39, 26-40, and 26-41 till September 7th.
Second.
September 2nd.
Okay.
We are now producing this in collaboration with Franklin TV and Franklin Public Radio. This podcast is my public service effort for Franklin, but we can't do it alone. We can always use your help. How can you help? If you can use the information that you find here, please tell your friends and neighbors. If you don't like something here, please let me know. Through this feedback loop, we can continue to make improvements. And I thank you for listening. For additional information, please visit franklinmatters.org. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me directly at suresteve@gmail.com. The music for the intro and exit was provided by Michael Clark and the group East of Shirley. The piece is titled Ernesto Mañana, copyright Michael Clark and Tintype Tunes in 2008, and used with their permission. I hope you enjoy. By the way, you can also subscribe and listen to Franklin Matters Radio on your favorite podcast app. Search in podcasts for Franklin Matters.